Now that's old-timey.
Angels came to tell the story, how he left his home in glory. He came to give us life and liberty. If you do not know him, let me share his word to show him, and his power to set the sinner free. Jesus is his name, no other name the same. For his name must every tongue confess. You will want to love him, there are none who are above him. He is God's Son, he is Jesus. Back and you will meet him. With what feeling will you greet him? Will you say, I'm glad that you have come again? Or will you be lost, rejected, for his grace you have neglected? Open your heart and let Jesus in. Jesus is his name, no other name the same. For his name must every tongue confess. You will want to love him, there are none who are above him. He is God's Son, he is Jesus. He is God's Son, he is Jesus.
Hello and welcome back to Old Timey Tuesday. The beautiful song that you just heard is a song that I used to hear Pap and Ray, the Wilson brothers, do back in the late 80s and early 90s. I always knew the song as Jesus is his name. And in fact, Pap and Ray, they recorded it on this album. I think I've shown this album several times on this channel. The name of the album, of course, is I Believe There's a Heaven. But Jesus is his name is listed as track number 3. And you can see it says unknown as far as who wrote the song. So today I wanted to share some things that I found out about the song and found out through the song. Before I go any further, a couple of other things that I'll share that are not related to this song. If you are interested in kind of what delayed today's video, I thought about sharing it in this video, but instead I just put it in the description down below so you can go read that if you want to know kind of what was going on. Nothing to be alarmed about. So many of y'all have been praying for Granny, so nothing negative or no sort of bad or turn for the worst or anything with Granny. But anyway, if you're curious, you can read in the description below. As I said there, they recorded the song back then, and you will be able to hear this recording at the end of this video. They'd been singing the song a lot longer than that, found on a reel-to-reel tape where they were singing the song probably somewhere around 1970, 71, somewhere in there. So long before I came along. So I just kind of always heard the song. And sometimes it's hard to find out who wrote a song. Now, back on Veterans Day, I shared a song that I'd heard in the early 2000s and learned called The Luckiest Man Alive. And when I posted the video, I didn't know who wrote that song. But a couple of our acorns found out and let me know. And so big thanks to Barbara Nichols Dyson Miller. She used to do research for East Tennessee State University, so she applied her research skills and did some digging and found out that the song was written by Mr. William Dale, who I believe maybe had a publishing company or a music company somewhere around Asheville. And then another acorn, when Tipper used that song on her Blind Pig blog, Mr. David Bradshaw chimed in and said, hey, that was written by Bill Dale. And he used to spend some time with Mr. Dale back in the 70s, and he let me know that Bill Dale knew the Nashville Bluegrass Band, which is, I'm sure, how they wound up singing that song. So I was able to go back to that video and pin a comment at the top to say, hey, I found out who wrote this excellent song. So the same was true, as you just saw on that cassette, regarding Jesus is His Name. I knew Pap didn't write the song, but I also knew it was not a hymn, or at least I'd never seen it in a songbook. I'd never heard anyone else sing the song in my life other than the Wilson brothers, Pap and Ray. I even sang part of the song for Mr. Doyle Dykes because I knew Doyle had heard probably all the old hymns and so much gospel music that there was a good chance that he might know where that song came from, or might have at least heard someone else do the song. But he was stumped. He said, I've never heard that song before. So I just kind of shrugged and I said, can't ask Pap, can't ask Uncle Ray. I guess we just won't know who wrote that song, but it sure is a beautiful song. What I like about it is, to me, it could appeal to someone who doesn't know the Lord, who hears the song, and it's almost like the song is introducing Jesus, and that this is somebody you really need to get to know. And I just think it's a beautiful melody also. So toward the end of this video, you'll hear, like I said, Pap and Ray, they're recording from the early 90s, which they recorded up at Mr. Wade Powell II of his recording studio that used to be there in Young Harris College. You'll hear that cut. I'll also share the cut that I found on Reel to Reel, which was probably a radio tape for either WKRK in Murphy or WCVP, one of those two stations most likely. You'll be able to hear that. But you'll also be able to hear, as far as I know, the very first recording of this song. So I have here some albums beside me, and you're also, another aspect of this video, it's almost like that musical archaeology that I've been able to do in the past. I'll tell you something that I never expected to learn through this whole process that I sort of stumbled upon. But right here are a couple of records that were always in my house when I was a kid, and they belonged to Pap. They're records of the Taylor Brothers. Taylor Brothers were a gospel duet in Michigan. This is them down below here, Marvin and Menace. I'm not sure which one is Marvin and which one is Menace, and I couldn't tell you which one sang lead and which one sang tenor. But they didn't switch their parts around. They always kind of kept the same orientation. They were great singers, especially the tenor singer was phenomenal. Not only on his tenor singing, but on his lead singing also. Back here is another picture of the brothers. The other two gentlemen there are probably their bass player and their mandolin player, possibly. But Pap had this record, and I remember I copied it off onto cassette when I got a little bit older and more interested in music of this nature, and I really liked this one. You may have seen on this channel me singing the song Job's God. That's a song that I would hear Pap sing part of when I was a kid, but only part of. And then I found the entire song here on this record. It's number 4, Job's God. I'll put a link in the description below of me singing that song. It has Master of the Universe on it, which was a Ira Louvin song. In fact, it has 3 Louvin Brothers songs on it. The Angels Rejoiced Last Night, Master of the Universe, Love Thy Neighbor as Thyself, and then The Great Judgment Morning, which was not a Louvin Brothers song. It was a Roy Acuff song. I'm not sure if Acuff wrote it, Fred Rose, but I'm sure the Taylor brothers learned it from the Louvin brothers, because just like Pap and Ray, they were huge Louvin brother fans. He had this record and he had this record, and unfortunately you can see that either me or Steve or Tipper, probably me or Tipper when we were little, for some reason wrote Daddy right on there. Maybe we were so small that we thought that one of these gentlemen was Daddy. I'm not sure. But he had these two records. This one has some Louvin Brothers songs on there as well, like He Was Waiting at the Altar and Thankful. I believe this is the one that, and it also has Satan Is Real. This has When the Roll Is Called Up Yonder, and that's the best. That's a very old song, right? The Taylor Brothers version of that is the best version that I've ever heard. Here's another picture on the back. So I enjoyed listening to these records. I didn't know that much about the Taylor Brothers. I just knew they sang, up in the Michigan area. Both of these records are on Heritage Records. That was the record label. And I didn't really know for sure, but I always kind of assumed that the Taylor brothers were kind of like Pap and Ray, that they had regular jobs and sang, their gospel music on the weekends rather than being, full-time professional singers or musicians. Now, back in the summer, this past summer, I believe probably late July, I was hanging out with my good buddy Josh Griggs. You've seen him on this channel playing piano. Just search if you haven't, and you can see Mr. Josh. Well, Josh loves to go to thrift stores and antique stores. So a lot of times if I'm hanging out with him, he'll kind of take me along. And Josh knows about all kinds of things and what their level of value is, whether it's pocket watches or jewelry or, any kind of antique. So I was going around with Josh. We were in a thrift store in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and I came across this record by the Taylor Brothers, Marvin and Menace. And I was like, oh, how cool. I have got to get that. It was $1, so I bought it for $1. Has some pictures on the back. And I'd been meaning to listen to this record since the summertime. And I just, it's hard to imagine that I was too busy to listen to a record. I even had it on my to-do list that I carry around on my phone. Well, finally, last week, I thought, I'm going to listen to that record. So I popped it on the record player, laid down here on the couch, and just kind of closed my eyes and thought, I'm going to enjoy this, hearing some Taylor Brothers stuff that I've never heard before. Well, the first song, not a big surprise there. He Included Me by the Louvin Brothers. And there's several Louvin Brothers songs on here. By the way, the Taylor Brothers also wrote songs. There's a couple on here in each of these albums that they wrote. And they were good songwriters. But track number 2 here, if you can see it, it just says Jesus. So when I bought this record, I did not recognize that song. Jesus, that could be a lot of different songs. It's kind of hard to tell much from that title. Well, as track 2 started to play and I laid here on my couch, I got goosebumps because there it was. Jesus is his name. And the Taylor Brothers did an awesome job. I'm going to let you hear them singing it. That I figured, almost immediately that's where Daddy and Ray have learned the song, was from the Taylor Brothers, even though Daddy didn't have this record, at least not that I could find. And then there's some connections that I'll explain a little bit later. After you've heard the Taylor Brothers sing it and after you've heard the reel-to-reel version, I'll point out something that to me kind of cinches it, that this is where Daddy and Ray learned the song, Jesus is his name. Or, as the Taylor Brothers called it, Jesus. Now, as I'm laying here on the couch listening to the record play, I'm enjoying it so much, and I'm super excited because I'm thinking, soon as that side 1 ends, I'm going to hop off the couch, I'm going to run over there and look at the record, and I'm going to find out who wrote that song. Well, I was disappointed because, as you can see, most of the songs on this record list an author. This one does not list an author. It only lists the time, that it was 2 minutes and 50 seconds long. So I was disappointed. But, maybe some acorns, maybe Barbara Nichols Dyson Miller, maybe she'll fire up her professional research skills again and she'll find out who wrote the song. To me, it does not sound like a very old song. It doesn't sound like, some hymn from the 1800s or early 1900s. It sounds like it might have been fairly new when the Taylor Brothers recorded it. This album came out in 1967. Now, this album provides a lot more information about the Taylor Brothers than the other two albums. They were performing in that Michigan area, but they were originally from Greenville, Tennessee. And if you watch Celebrating Appalachia or you read Tipper's blog, the Blind Pig blog, you know that was a pretty big phenomenon in the mid to late 20th century for Appalachian men to go north to get jobs working in the auto industry. Several brothers of Granny's did that, and several of her, uncles, cousins. She just has a lot of family members who went up there to work and, did their whole career working for different car manufacturers. Now, it doesn't come right out and say that the Taylor Brothers worked in the auto industry, but I wouldn't be surprised. But it tells where they lived there with their two wives, Lincoln Park, Michigan. And then I'm going to tell you, after you hear this, somewhere in the video, so much information, it's hard for me to know how to organize it, but somewhere in this information, in this video, I'm going to tell you another cool connection that I stumbled upon through the process of buying this $1 record and playing it. But maybe right now is a good time for me to shut up and let you hear the Taylor Brothers singing Jesus, as they called it, or Jesus is His Name, as I have always known it through Pap and Ray.
Angels came to tell a story, how He left His home and glory. He came to give us life and
All right, so there was the 1967 recording from the Taylor Brothers singing Jesus, or Jesus is His Name. I guess you could also refer to the song as He is Jesus. That's another prominent line in there. It's really hard to explain the feelings I had when that record came on. I just laid here, with my eyes closed and just thought, wow, you got to be kidding me. There I have found where that song came from, where Daddy and Ray learned the song. I took it up to Tipper's house. I just texted her and said, I've got something I want to show you. And I carried that little Crossley record player up there. If you don't have a record player, last I knew Walmart sold those. They're not very expensive. They do a great job, and they don't take up hardly any space. They also have Wi-Fi connection or connectability. I'm not sure why you would need that, but it'll do that. And then on the back, it has some outputs too, if you wanted to run it into an amplifier or speakers. But anyway, I carried this record and the record player up there. I didn't tell Tipper what it was. I just said, I got something I want you to hear. And I set it on her kitchen counter, put the record on there, and let track 2 start playing. And I don't think she would mind me sharing this. As she leaned against the counter there by her sink, she just leaned there, and just the tears just rolled down her face. And she enjoyed it so much, but it was also a very moving moment for her, just as it was for me. And like I said, that's hard to explain, but I guess I would describe it this way. It would almost be like if you were following a trail that was left behind by a dear friend or family member, and you found something along that trail that was like a sign or a mark of that person has been here. So to me, and I think to her too, although I didn't ask her, I didn't say, hey, why are you crying? It was just one of those things that went without saying. I knew why she was crying, and we were just like, she was saying, that is so cool. That is so cool. And I said, I know. And I said, I've had this record for months and didn't know, until I put it on there and started playing it. But it was a connection with Pap, who is no longer with us. We knew Pap had heard the Taylor Brothers sing this song. And in the reel-to-reel version from Pap and Ray that you'll hear shortly, Pap sings the verses. And when you have a brother act, or really any duet, where both singers, are capable of singing lead, most of the time the singer who leads the chorus, when you're singing together, most of the time that same person takes the solo parts. Now, not always. That was actually the tenor singer who led the verses on the Taylor Brother version, except for one small little phrase that the lead singer sang. I really don't know, for sure, but what my brain is telling me is that the younger one, is probably the tenor singer, and the older one is probably the lead singer, but I could be totally wrong. If anybody out there has seen the Taylor Brothers perform in person, or by name or by some other information that you found on an album of who did what, you let me know. But I believe that was the tenor singer. Well, I know it was the tenor singer. I couldn't say which guy, but the tenor singer led those verses, except for one little phrase, and maybe I'll put that phrase at the bottom of the screen, where the lead singer sang. But in general, when you have 2-part harmony, usually the person who sings lead when they're singing together, when they're singing harmony, also will sing the solos on any verses. Ira, for example, in the Louvin Brothers, sang some lead, but most of the time Charlie led the verses if it was a solo verse. Take the Wilburn Brothers, you got Teddy and Doyle. I couldn't tell you who's who right now off the top of my head, but whoever sang the lead when they sang together, I believe that might have been Doyle. Anyway, he sang the verses solo. So in the reel-to-reel version, the one reason I'm going to all this length to comment on that In the reel-to-reel version, which would have been somewhere around 1970, so just a few years after this record came out, Pap sang the verses. What that tells to me is that most likely Pap learned the song first and brought it to Ray and said, hey, I heard this song, the Taylor Brothers sang this song, I think we should sing this song, and then they learned it. And Ray didn't bother learning the verses back then because Pap already knew them. And he probably said, well, that's fine, you just sing them, you already know them, no need for me to learn them, you just sing the verses. So that's one piece of evidence, along with the fact that I've never heard anybody else sing it, that tells me that Pap learned the song from the Taylor Brothers. Now, another piece of evidence has to do with the ending of the second verse. When you hear the reel-to-reel version, you'll hear that he ended it, Pap ended that verse the same way the Taylor Brothers singer ended it, which was something like, won't you open up your heart, let Jesus in, which was a lot of words to go into just a few beats. Now, when I sang it on the piano, I believe I just sang, open your heart, let Jesus in. I didn't phrase it as a question. I didn't have as many words in there. When you hear Ray led it in this 90s recording. Ray approached it in a more simple way, just like I did, Uncle Ray. He didn't say, won't you open up your heart, let Jesus in. He just said, open your heart, let Jesus in. There's probably a name for that technique. I don't really know it, but there's a certain way you can go about it, and you can make more syllables fit smoothly into a few beats than you normally could. But you have to be pretty good with that technique. It's something that I heard Charlie Louvin do a lot in his solo career. And Pap could have come up with that approach on his own, but I would say he is doing it the way he heard it from the Taylor brother who used that approach. On the back here, this young lady was playing the piano. One of these gentlemen, this one on the far right, he was their mandolin player, and this gentleman was their bass player. And what I may do is get a good still shot of the back of this, and maybe these other albums too, and then anyone who wants to just pause the video and read all of this, you can. But before I move on to the other thing that I accidentally discovered from this album, just another comment about the song and what a great song it is in terms of introducing people to the Lord. Now, when Ray sang it and when Pap sang it, and I believe, well, definitely when the Taylor brothers sang it and when Ray sang it, I'm not sure on Pap, I'd have to listen to it, but I believe all of them said, if you do not know him, or they sang, if you do not know him, let me live my life to show him and his power to set the sinner free. Actually, the Taylor brothers sang, if you do not know him, I'll just live my life to show him and his power to set the sinner free. There's nothing wrong with those words. The reason I sang it the way I sang it, which was let me share his word to show him, is I don't want to, even though it would be my goal and my intention to show people Jesus through the way I live, I couldn't say that I accomplished that. As Doyle Dykes says sometimes in his Sunday string-alongs, I'm not claiming, I'm aiming. So I'm not going to claim that my life would show anyone Jesus, but I could definitely share his word, and that would show Jesus. The Gideons, they say our mission is the gospel, because if you share God's word, a lot of times that will take care of everything right there. The Bible says God's word, will not return void. and it's like a two-edged sword. It's powerful. God's word is powerful. So I just wanted to mention that. The song is fine either way. I just wanted to explain why I sang it a little bit differently. It wasn't that I forgot how Pap sang it or how he and Ray sang it. It's just a thought that I had of kind of how I wanted to sing it, from my perspective. Pap and Ray taught me to always think critically about the words. I have some friends that are just like, well, I hardly ever even listen to the words or think about the words. But the words are equally important, especially in a gospel song, but really in almost any song. I'm not talking about just a frivolous, lighthearted song. But in any serious song, the words are just as important as the melody or the beat or anything like that. So they taught me to do that, and I saw them several times if there was a part of a song that they really liked, but there was a part of the song that they thought was maybe incorrect with their understanding of the Bible, then they would tweak it. They would make it align to their understanding and their study of the Bible. So this tweak that I did, it was not that it was incorrect. It was just more of a personal thing that I didn't want to sing it to indicate or to imply that my life, would show someone Jesus. I think that's all I wanted to say about the wonderful song. Before you hear Pap and Ray, two versions from them. So on the back, I pointed out everyone, if you think about it, but the guitar player. This record and these other two records, they have an electric guitar, which, of course, is the same format that the Louvin brothers used. They had Chet Atkins, Paul Yandell, Jimmy Capps, most famously, as their guitar player. Well, the Taylor brothers had a lead guitar player too, an electric guitar player on all their records. As I was laying here listening, that's one thing that I enjoyed, not so much on the song you just heard, but on the album as a whole, is the fingerstyle guitar. It was not on the level of a Jimmy Capps or a Doyle Dykes or a Chet Atkins, but it was good. It was good, and it was expressive, and it supported their performance really well. So as I go over and I start reading the record, I see that the guitar player was Jerry Hyatt. No picture on here of Jerry Hyatt. He's the only one not pictured. Well, Pap had a friend named Jerry Hyatt who was from right around here, I believe, from Georgia. And the first time I ever met Jerry, Jerry sang with his wife, Evelyn, and they sang gospel music. The first time I ever met Jerry, Pap already knew him. And it was like, oh, how you doing, boy? I haven't seen you in a long time, and they were talking and kind of reminiscing. And that happened often with Pap, that he would know everywhere we went, everybody knew Pap. If we went in the grocery store, it might take us an hour or two to get out of there because of all the people that would have to, stop and talk with him. But anyway, it was clear that they went back, that they were old buddies. So when I saw that, I thought, could that be the Jerry Hyatt that Pap knew, that we knew, that we used to make music around? Because we would go in those days, back in the 90s, we would go all over the place making gospel music, and we would often cross paths with Jerry and Evelyn Hyatt, and they would be performing at the same place we were performing. And they sang two-part harmony, did a great job. And Jerry played with his fingers and a thumb pick. And so when I saw that, I was like, could that be the same Jerry Hyatt? It's spelled the same. And then in the next day or two, my good friend Wade Powell II called me, and we were talking, and I was telling him all this that I've just told you about this song. And he said, well, Jerry lived most of his life in Michigan. Well, that pretty much cinched it for me right there. Right before starting this camera, I hopped on the internet and looked, and Jerry Hyatt passed away in 2011. Interestingly, he was almost the same age, practically the same age that Pap was when Pap passed away, although Pap passed away in 2016. Jerry Hyatt, when he was 79 years old, he passed away in 2011. Well, Pap worked a couple of years in the Detroit area himself. He worked for Firestone, where they made tires rather than cars. So I don't know if that's where he came to know Jerry, or if he knew Jerry before they both went up there. It's hard to say. When I was talking to Wade Powell II, he said that he thought Jerry was from White, W-H-I-T-E, White, Georgia. According to the internet, Jerry was not from White, Georgia, but his wife, Evelyn, was from White, Georgia. She passed away in, I think, 2021 or 2022 at the age of 91. And I'm going to put a link in the description below. I found one song by them here on YouTube that you can hear. It's a great song, a song I've always loved, The Sweetest Gift, and you can hear them. Now, in that recording, Jerry is playing his guitar. If it is Jerry, he's playing it with a flat pick and not finger picks. Not too long ago, I mentioned the Mashburn Brothers, which was a trio from Hiwassee, Georgia, and I found out when I was looking at Jerry's obituary and reading things like that there was a span of time where the Mashburn Brothers and Jerry and Evelyn performed together, and they just called themselves Jerry and Evelyn Hyatt and the Mashburn Brothers. And so it could have been one of them who's playing it with the flat pick in the song Sweetest Gift. The Mashburn Brothers had an excellent guitar player who I've mentioned on here before, Zip Silvers. Coolest name, right? It could have been him. But of course, someone who picks with their fingers can always switch and pick with a flat pick. Caleb Dykes does that, all the time. So I was talking with Wade about it, and he said, I have a picture somewhere of Nikki and Wade. So that would be Wade Powell's son, Wade Powell III, and Nick Powell with Jerry and Evelyn. And I said, I've got a cassette here somewhere of them. So I found it, and it's kind of a cool picture there. So there's my good friend Wade Powell III, the banjo guitar player, dobro player that you've seen and heard on this channel. And then there's his older brother, Nick Powell, excellent guitar player, mandolin player, especially mandolin player, although he told me he hardly ever plays the mandolin anymore, fiddler. But they made this album with Jerry and Evelyn Hyatt. So there's Mr. Jerry there in the middle, and his wife Evelyn. So, and I also found this CD of them. I don't know where the case is. I found this CD in some of Pap's CDs that he kept in his Buick car. When we cleaned out his car when we sold it, and I found that in there. Maybe I'll stumble upon the case. It has a little hairline crack in it right there. Hopefully it'll still play. But I have pretty much established or proven that Jerry Hyatt, and I read on the internet that Jerry worked for Chrysler for over 30 years, and then he retired and he moved back down here. So when Pap and I saw him in the 90s and we would be around them performing, that's when he had retired and moved back down here. But it just blows my mind that that extra connection to the Taylor brothers, that Pap's friend Jerry Hyatt was actually playing guitar on at least one of their recordings. I don't know if he played on any of these others, but I know he played on this one, and it's so cool. And maybe Jerry and Evelyn, some of their children, will stumble upon this video, and if they didn't know that, they'll learn that he played as a studio musician, I guess, for the Taylor brothers. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say about that before you hear Pap and Ray singing this song. If this camera, I've been talking so long, if this camera loses this, I'm going to get down on the floor and cry because I don't want to do it all again. There's several ways that Pap could have learned about the Taylor brothers. He could have definitely have learned about them through Granny's brothers, because they came down here all the time to visit their mother, Granny's mother, my granny, Gazzy Jenkins. And a lot of them were big music lovers. Granny's cousin, Kenneth, who lives up there, I want to say he used to go see the Taylor brothers in person. Granny told me that her brother George, one time when Granny and Pap had gone up to visit Granny's kinfolks there in around Detroit and in Michigan, that her brother George actually took Pap to the Taylor brothers' home, and he got these two records directly from the Taylor brothers at their home, at their house. So how cool is that? He could have learned about them through through Granny's family. Now that I know this Jerry Hyatt connection, he could have learned about them through Jerry Hyatt. And then he could have just heard them on the radio. I mean, after all, I found this record in Blue Ridge, Georgia. So Pap wasn't the only Southerner down here who knew about these Appalachian gospel singers who had relocated to Michigan to kind of, make their career up there. I hope you found some of that interesting. I probably didn't do a very good job of relaying it, but it's cool to discover all that and sort of document it in this video. Maybe some of Pap's grandchildren or great-grandchildren might watch this video someday and learn some things like, oh, I didn't know that Pap worked at Firestone. He actually played AAA baseball for the Firestone baseball team while he was there. And he had to give that up when he was drafted and when he went into the Marines. But it's just cool, all because of that song. And I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that some acorn out there might be able to find out who wrote this beautiful song, Jesus, as the Taylor brothers called it, or Jesus is his name, as Pap and Ray, the Wilson brothers, referred to it. I'll shut up now and I'll let you hear those other two recordings. Thanks for watching and spending this much time. And Lord willing, we'll see you this Thursday with an original song.
Angels came to tell the story, how he left his home in glory. He came to give us life and liberty. If you do not know him, let me live my life to show him, and his power to set the sinner free. Jesus is his name, no other name the same, for that name must every tongue confess. You will want to love him, there is none that is above him. He is God's Son, he is Jesus. He'll come back and you will meet him. With what feeling will you greet him? Can you say, I'm glad that you have come again? Or will you be lost, rejected, in your life sin you've neglected? Won't you open up your heart, let Jesus in? Jesus is his name, no other name the same, for that name must every tongue confess. You will want to love him, there is none that is above him. He is God's Son, he is Jesus.
Angels came to tell